Cool. I'm Jordan.
I'm Maddie.
And we work for the behaviour change team at Ogilvy. Our mission in our team essentially is to how can we get people to change their behaviour or to make better decisions without the whole big expensive advertising campaign. So rather than everything else that the rest of the wider agency does, we look to change things in people's environments that change their behaviour because of the way that we're programmed. So we understand the psychology behind how people behave in order to then change that behaviour.
Examples being?
So for example, we might work with an airport who might want to get people to follow their security rules more. So what we do is we look to the behavioural science literature to understand, okay, maybe why are people not following the rules, do a bit of research, and then come up with creative solutions to that problem. So maybe that's designing something that sits in that environment to nudge people to do the right thing. On the flip side, it might be kind of tailoring communications a bit. So for example, if we want people to respond to direct mail through the door, we might add little nudges to that direct mail to get people to respond to it or to pay money that they owe or things like that. So it works in very different ways.
And your backgrounds are what?
I studied biology at university, was just always interested in biology and sort of how people behave. Didn't really know where that takes you, but thought I'd study it and see what happens. Got really interested in the evolution side, so how we program to behave through our evolution. And through that, I guess, came across this field of behavioural science, which is what we do here. So from there, got a job as essentially a psychologist in a company that does similar sort of things, designing behavioural interventions. Worked there for 3 years before joining here.
Yep, and I originally studied psychology at A-level and then at university, and initially went down a more traditional research approach, but was really itching to do something more creative. Read a bit more about this thing called behavioural science and how you could creatively apply it in the industry and in business. And then started working at Ogilvy, which was really amazing.
So does that mean that all of us are affected or being almost manipulated without us realising it?
So the lovely thing about behavioural science is that we always use kind of these small little nudges. Everyone still maintains their free will. So effectively, if you don't want to buy that can of Coca-Cola, we're not going to make you buy it. But we have little nudges that can steer your decisions in different ways.
And I think especially what we do here, it's all quite positive projects. So it will be, how can we get people to recycle more? How can we get people to waste less food? How can we get people to be safer when they're working in a factory? All of those sorts of things, rather than just how can we get people to buy more product X.
But do you think people are as moral as you, or do you think there are some deliberate manipulations going on?
It's definitely the ethical debate is a really interesting one that's constantly talked about in the behavioural science community. It's definitely a hot topic. I think now that it's being used more, there's definitely some more guidelines that are coming to place. We obviously have, as a company, our own ethical guidelines. We can't speak to other people's ethical guidelines, but it's definitely a hot topic in the behavioural science community.
And did either of you think you'd be doing what you do now when you were deciding upon your A-levels or university?
No, I never knew it existed, but I'm so glad it does.
Yeah, I was the same. I never knew it existed. I guess just got into it through reading books around it, watching talks or watching TED Talks on YouTube, and sort of thought, you know what, this is fascinating. I'd love to see if there are any jobs or anything to do with it. And yeah, I was quite surprised because I always sort of thought, I know what I'm interested in. There's no jobs to do that though. And I came across this. It was like, oh, you know what, that's a pretty good fit.
And I think a really good piece of advice is to just seek out work experience in different companies, internships, just trying to get a flavour of what these businesses actually do. Because like Jordan said, a lot of the times you don't realise these jobs exist until you start to explore them a bit more.
So do you think we're not doing enough at school to open people's eyes as to how many opportunities there really are?
I think definitely when I was studying, for example, psychology at school, I did not realise that jobs like this existed. And I think a lot more maybe could have been done to be like, these are the different ways you can use psychology in the wider world. So maybe, I'm not sure how the school system is now, but definitely when I was doing A-levels, it would have been amazing to know there are more opportunities like this.
Yeah, I would agree. And I would definitely say also just realising that if you're passionate about something, if you're interested about something, then do it, because you don't have to know this is what I want to end up doing afterwards. That was definitely something that I sort of realised, you know what, I'm so glad I did it. I didn't know what would come out the end of it, but I'm interested in this and I'd like to find out more, and doors open as you walk down the path.
And university is important?
I would say so. I would say that would be sort of key. And I think it's
Yeah.
just enjoyable as well. Yeah.
I agree it's not the only option, but I think it's an option that definitely opens up a lot of opportunities.
And what you study, does that matter that much? Or does it
I
not?
think in terms of our business, there are lots of people with lots of different, like people who study psychology, social science, even people who are more traditionally in advertising, who have just shown an interest in behavioural science. So I'd say for what we do, it's more of, if you can demonstrate an interest in the area, then I'd say that's more important than what subject you specifically studied.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's again just the being interested in it, reading around it, knowing the sort of subject, rather than having to study that specific subject at university.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.